For most people, it's just a workout. For us, it's bigger than fitness. Welcome to the Bigger Than Fitness podcast. For those who strive to make themselves better consistently through health and fitness. I'm your host, Coach Marty. If you're enjoying this content, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends to help support this channel. Enjoy the show.
Hey everyone, Coach Marty here. Welcome back to another episode of the Bigger Than Fitness podcast. Today we have a special guest. He's one of our coaches at Crooked River CrossFit. Welcome to the podcast, Coach Ken Grano.
What's up, guys?
So this is an exciting podcast. I've been wanting to do this for a while, but a lot of you guys don't know who Ken is, and some of you do, depending on who the listener is. But I want to get a little background on Ken. Without further ado, Ken, when did you join Crooked River CrossFit?
So I started back in 2018. It was August of 2018, so just about 5.5 years ago. And the story, and I'll just kind of jump into why I reached out and came through those doors. We had a health incident in my family with my mom in particular. She had fallen at home and broken her leg in 3 places by her ankle. And we didn't know why she fell, but as she was in the hospital, we found out that she had stage 4 liver cancer. Her and I, over the years, had many talks about health, making healthy choices, and what you're eating, what you're drinking, what's your exercise regimen, and kind of fast forward through some of that. She had liver cancer due to some of her health choices, some things in her control, some things not. And so once I had found that out, I took a long, hard look at myself and what I was doing, both from a nutrition perspective, alcohol perspective, exercise regimen, and I knew I needed to make a change, that I needed to do some things different. I'd always been a soccer player. I'd always done a lot of running. I knew nothing, about nutrition or any of the other stuff. Even the exercising I was doing was not necessarily intense enough for me to look the way and be the healthy way I wanted to be. And so I decided that, after my mom's incident, it was time to change my lifestyle. And so I called Coach Jackie, reached out, and that was it. She had me in, and that was 2018. Like I said, 5.5 years ago at the old building. I never forget that first workout that she ran me through. I remember telling her, I was like, yeah, I'm a really good runner. This will be like a no-brainer. I think it was running and some type of box jumps, and she had me on a 20-inch box. And I was like, yeah, I'm a really good runner. It'll be fine. And I don't remember if it was a 200 or a 400, whatever it was. I'll be fine. And I remember just like hitting the wall, just like, whoa, that's something I had never felt before doing my workouts. And so I knew that right away I had found something that was challenging that I liked doing, and it was going to make me better.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think everyone has a reason why they come in the doors. And I think the stronger the why, the more successful you'll be in the long run. Because, obviously these type of workouts in CrossFit are not easy. Not only do the workouts, but do them consistently. So having that why, I think, is super important. And I think you found it and you ran with it and you've been consistent since day one. And you've had probably one of the biggest fitness success stories in terms of your fitness level. And I think it shows with the way you look too. We have some amazing before and after pictures of when you started to where you're at now. So that's pretty awesome. I think that, obviously you have kids too. So I think you're being an awesome role model for them as well. So that's super cool. So what do you think? Obviously you have your big reason why, you did it, but what do you think keeps pushing you forward and allows you to keep progressing even today after 5.5 years of doing this?
2 thoughts. The first is definitely the why is always with me, right? And you mentioned that once you have a reason that you're coming in, and most people come in because they want to lose weight, or, for me it was, I did want to lose weight, but I wanted to be healthier. And at the time when I looked at my wife and my sister-in-law, Jackie, they looked the way that I wanted to look. And I knew they were doing something that I didn't know about. Coming through those doors over the years, I've kind of learned things here and there to take some time. But, the why is gets you in the door and it keeps you coming. But also that progression piece of how do I grow and progress in a gym environment? And what does that even mean? Are you trying to grow and progress in weight loss or in skill development or in volume or in strength? It could mean different things to different people. And so once I came in with my why, it was keeping my second reason is developing some goals and trying to grow in a way that I wanted to grow in. And for me, it was I wanted to be CrossFit complete, which I don't know if is an official term, but I wanted to know and be able to do all of the regular CrossFit movements that show up in a workout, the ring muscle ups, the handstand walks, all the crazy stuff. And that was kind of my first goal. Like it is for some people to some extent where they want to learn double unders, or they want to learn toes to bar, something like that. Once I had my why and I came in, I was able to just start making some reasonable goals and progressing my skills and my volume and eventually my strength, which I'm still progressing, but it keeps you consistent. You just kind of set some goals of here's what I want to do and how am I going to get there? And you kind of have to make a roadmap. And the only way to get there is you got to show up and be consistent on a daily and weekly basis, monthly basis. You got to be coming in the door on a regular basis, putting that time in, trying to accomplish those goals.
Yeah, absolutely. To kind of talk about that too, like I'm sure you could touch base on this. This is something that I heard a while ago, but it was talking about like you shouldn't rely on motivation. You should rely on discipline. And the reason I say that, and I've heard that, is because you're not always going to be motivated. But if you're disciplined, you're going to show up no matter what. You're going to stay consistent. But if you're relying on motivation, those days that you don't feel like doing it or feel like pushing yourself, you're not going to do that. I want to touch on that a little.
Yeah. And that's, everyone has had those days where you come in the gym and you look at the workout, you're like, oh, that's not one that I want to do, and whatever it is. And you just know you got to come in and you got to do it. Is it going to be your best performance or your best workout? No, but it's better to come in and do something than to avoid coming in and not doing anything. You just have to keep reminding yourself that this is a long-term investment into your health. And there's going to be ups and downs in that path. But the more you keep coming in and do something, anything, the more likely you are to improve your health metrics and to achieve your goals and, to keep progressing. But you do have to be consistent. Those days you're not motivated, you got to show up and you got to do anything. It may not be even what's prescribed. A lot of times someone will come in and be like, I have an ankle injury, I can't jump rope, and there's a jump rope in the workout. Well, we're here as coaches, we can modify that so we can still give you something to keep you in the stimulus of the workout. And I think that's a big point that I try to make and say to members as I'm coaching them is, show up and we'll make the best of it. We'll talk about what your goals are specific to you and how we're going to achieve them. If we've got this hour window, how do we work on those goals a little bit in that hour window? Maybe it's not doing double unders. Maybe it's working on toes to bar, and we'll audible on the fly. We'll do what's best for you to help you achieve your goals.
Yeah, definitely. And to jump back to what you were mentioning before about setting goals and having a roadmap, hot topic is goal setting and the fact that a lot of people will set these goals and it might be a year from now, whatever, but then they don't actually establish a game plan or even specific goals related to their end goal, right? So like being more specific about what you want to achieve versus just saying like, oh, I want to be able to do double unders. Well, how many do you want to do? When do you want to do it by? How are you going to achieve those goals? So if you have a goal that's set out from a year from now, like what's your game plan and like what's your step-by-step goals leading up to that? Like do you have quarterly goals? Do you have monthly goals? Do you have an action plan to actually pursue those goals?
Right. And I think a lot of times, and I've heard this from a couple coaches at our gym, that, it's a good example. If your goal is to do double unders and you're looking at a workout and there's, got to do 100 double unders and you look at that like, well, that's not for me. That's not going to happen. Well, one of the things that Marty, you were actually really good at that turned me on to this was maybe we're just going to scale that volume back. And like, what can you do? Maybe it is going to take you a minute to do, 30 double unders. You're going to be tripping a bunch. You're working in 2s and 3s, but eventually 2s and 3s become 4s and 5s and 6s and 7s. And whoa, now all of a sudden we're doing 10 in a row. We don't start doing double unders until we do double unders. And it may be at a smaller volume. You may be tripping and you're going to go through that frustration like everyone does when they're trying to learn double unders, but that is part of the process. Nobody comes in, fresh off the streets like, yeah, here's 100 double unders, like first time. It doesn't happen. And we do have to start from the bottom and progress our way up. That's the coach's job, is to make sure that we are challenging you, that we're helping you achieve those goals. And I encourage everyone, talk to your coaches about how we can help you better achieve your goals in class, out of class, all that stuff. That's what we're here to help you guys do.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously some of the skill stuff like double unders or any other, maybe it's kipping toes to bar, kipping pull-ups, like, there's progressions to it. And I always preach, you should be spending some time outside of the workout practicing those things, because typically you do want to practice those at a lower heart rate, but at the same time, you also have to practice them at a high heart rate. So to your point, if there is 100 double unders, maybe it is only 30, or maybe you're setting a timer for 1 minute and 30 seconds where you're just practicing and trying to get as many double unders in that time frame as you can, and then either moving on or supplementing with some single unders in there. But yeah, that's a great point.
And one of the things, just to jump in there, one of the things I used to do a lot of, there's a video where you guys are talking about, hey, come do Fit 30, and there's me in the background as you guys are trying, you got everything's all mic'd up, and there's just a dude jumping rope in the background. And it was either before or after class, just, outside of that class window, trying to work on and develop a skill. That was kind of a regular thing looking for my progression was either coming in early or staying 5 to 10 minutes later and just doing some extra work, whatever I can do, videoing myself, reviewing it later, comparing it to other people online or in the gym. Yeah, you do got to put that extra work in outside of the gym time for sure. If you're trying to progress skills, absolutely.
Definitely. One of the things that we've almost came up with a slogan for the gym somewhat in the last couple of years is challenge yourself, right? And I think there's a lot of things to touch on that. One of them is, I think a lot of people that are looking to get results, and maybe they're stuck in a plateau, maybe they're not, but they're trying to break through that plateau, but they're kind of stuck in their own comfort zone. So whether that's a specific exercise or whether that's the intensity of the workout, like we talked about with double unders, to use that as an example again, is to actually do double unders in a workout is a way of stepping out of your comfort zone. And then, obviously that's going to lead to a higher intensity workout long term, because if you've done single unders versus double unders before, that double unders are going to get your heart rate up more than single unders. So, that's also going to help you in that regard, is in making the workout a little bit more intense.
Yeah, to that challenge yourself point, I do think you can't just run to the scales and you're familiar with. You're stuck in your comfort zone if that's what you're doing. We do got to step outside of that. Toes to bar are, not in the game for you. What's the highest level of, is it hanging leg raises? What can we do to start replicating some of that stimulus? Can you give me one toe to bar before you scale it down? Can you give me 2 double unders before we go to single unders? Something where we're stepping outside of that comfort zone, and just whatever that is, give me a really solid effort. And if it starts falling apart, yeah, you know what your scales are. You know how to go back to those things. But we have to continually try to step out of that comfort zone to get any type of growth or adaptation in the body. We do have to challenge ourselves. That's a great slogan. Yeah, we need to be embracing that more for sure, and stepping out of that comfort zone and not running to our scales that we know.
Yeah, the only way you're going to progress is to get a little uncomfortable. That kind of leads to another big topic I wanted to discuss is, CrossFit is really famous, and I think it's blown up in popularity because of what they preach, and they preach intensity. And obviously, you were talking about it before as being consistent. We would definitely want to be consistent, I think, over in the intensity side. But as you're gaining that consistency, now it's time to start, like we talked about, stepping out of your comfort zone, challenging yourself, and pushing the intensity. A lot of CrossFit workouts are meant to be short and intense. And so if a workout's only 7 minutes long and you're going at a kind of casual pace, you're not going to get the stimulus of the workout and the benefits of the intensity of the workout if you're not pushing yourself. So you've seen people, if anyone's ever done CrossFit before, inside of a class, you've seen people when they're done with workouts kind of fall on the ground in discomfort. Not saying that should be done every time, but if you've never done an intense workout to a point where you felt like you needed to do that, that might be something to address and see how you can start pushing yourself a little bit more in a workout.
Right. And everyone's intensity is relative, right? CrossFit's big on relative intensity. So the intensity for me versus other members, yeah, it's certainly different. I get that. I would say, once to twice a week, you should be feeling like, wow, that was really hard. Like one of those workouts where you're laying on the ground and you're just kind of all spread out, a sweaty mess, especially now that it's getting hot out, like the sweat's coming out. Yeah, you should be having those once or twice a week. That's really challenging yourself. And if we're not doing that at all, and we're kind of like, say it's a heavy cardio, rowing, biking, or skiing or something like we tend to do on a Tuesday, and we're kind of finishing that and we're like able to stand up and be like, yeah, that was great. It's like, well, we maybe could have pushed a little harder. Maybe we could have chased a little bit more intensity. And I think that's hard for some folks to jump into the pain cave. But understand, I think is it Chuck that says this in CrossFit? He says, intensity is where the results are. And I don't remember if that's exactly who said that, but that is something that I tend to live by. Intensity is where the results are. If you collapse on the ground, yeah, again, that's not for everybody, but yeah, you've had a really good workout. You really pushed yourself, and you're going to reap the rewards of that, the adaptation your body's going to get from that. Cardio, the strength, whatever. You've chased it and you've caught it, and now your body's going to adapt and improve. That takes those health metrics in a positive direction, takes you a little bit more towards the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum. That's the stuff we want to try to push for. I would say once to twice a week. You're not always up for it, right? But you need to be finding that a couple times a week for sure.
For sure. And to speak on that, just a little bit more effort, like even 10% more effort can go a long way. There was a workout a week or two ago that was one of those kind of cardio Tuesdays that we like to do. And I had just done 4 days of workouts in a row. We did the quarterfinals, and, I just came in and I was like, look, I'm talking to myself. I'm beat up and I'm just going to step off the gas just a hair. And so that's what I did in the workout. And when I was done with the workout, I got a sweat and I felt good, but I didn't feel like it was that hard. And the workout, if I pushed just 10% more, would have made a huge difference in how I felt and really the results that I was getting. But I think in that scenario is a perfect example of like a time to okay, my body's a little sore, my nervous system's probably a little shot from doing all these workouts, And, today I'm just going to move, get a sweat in, get the blood flowing, get a decent workout, feel good. And there's a time and a place for that. And I think you just need to know when to push and when not to push.
And I do think fitness can be a really good form of recovery. You mentioned doing the quarterfinals workouts. Like, yeah, you just worked out pretty hard. Maybe you are going to come in and give, maybe it's not your best effort, but it's an effort. You're going to get that blood pumping, that sweat moving. And yeah, that is a form of recovery. It does help you. I think a lot of folks this week thinking of Monday's workout with all those wall balls, their legs are hurting. But the best, recovery, in my opinion, is just to start moving again. Anything and everything. The more you start moving that blood around, the quicker you're going to recover and bounce back. As opposed to just kind of sitting stagnant on the couch, be like, okay, I had a really hard workout, a really hard weekend. Now I'm just going to hang out for a while and sit on the couch. That soreness is going to set in. It's not going to go away. So yeah, I think showing up, even when you don't want to show up, when you're hurting, when you're sore, that is a really good form of recovery. So a little bit of intensity goes a long way when you're hurting and not feeling it, right? You just got to walk to the door and get it in. Do whatever you can do. Like I said, it's not for everybody to go in every day 100%. You're going ham, you're laying on the floor. There are those times, like you mentioned, where you just kind of show up, give an effort. And it's a recovery workout is really what it is.
Yeah, it's going to help the soreness, it's going to help flush that lactic acid out, all that good stuff. And it helps with the consistency aspect too. We talked about that. Like, you don't want to come in if you haven't worked out in a while and push as hard as you possibly can day one. You want to get in, move, challenge yourself a little bit. And even if you're a little sore, be sure to come in the next day and focus on getting back in that routine if you're someone that fell off the wagon a little bit. And that way you can build that consistency again. You can build the habits. You got your routine back. And then as you start feeling better, you can start ramping it back up again. You know what I mean?
Right. 100%. And we do have members that do that pretty well. We've had some injuries where people, ankles, backs, and they just kind of show up and do what they do. And that does help that injury recover, right? So I do think there is, showing up, being consistent does help with injury recovery as well.
Yeah. And to speak on that too, like, we're all going to go through our aches and pains and, it can be discouraging. I've been through it.
Oh yeah. With your back, a whole ton.
Yeah. Yeah. My back, I've had all sorts. I'm not even going to go through them all. It'll take me a while to go through, but I always show up, even when I did have those back issues, I would show up and I'd still move. I would modify the heck out of workouts for a long time until I gained that strength back and healed up and got back into my normal routine.
And I always tell members too, like, you're injured, like you can't something with your leg. Yeah. Is that always exciting to come in and do like bench press and strict press? No, but this is a really good opportunity for you to work on those things. And yeah, maybe you will have some massive gains on your bench and your strict press, but I know it's not exciting, but it's better than not doing anything. Right. So it's just an opportunity in disguise to some extent.
That's a great point. Like, when you're injured, it's so easy to be down on yourself, a little depressed, that kind of stuff. But you also have to look at it from like positive point of view. Like, okay, well, I can do this, and this, and maybe I'm not good at some of these things, so I can actually spend some more time on these things and get them better. It's funny you said that because when I hurt my back, I was benching like 2 to 3 days a week, and my bench went up like crazy. So it's just a perfect example of taking advantage when that opportunity presents itself.
Dude, obviously. I want a back injury then if that's going to improve my bench.
That's one of the ways you can look at it. Like, look at the positives. And again, I know it's discouraging sometimes when you have to modify all the time, but you got to find ways and you got to look at the positives, like I said, and push through those workouts, even if you got to modify, because, everybody's different. Everybody has their ailments, mobility issues, whatever it might be. But like I said, you just got to find your thing and push through. And if you have trouble modifying, obviously that's what the coaches are there for, to talk to them before class. If you can get there early, and say, hey, what should I do today? A lot of people don't do that. And like mentioned before, people are kind of stuck with their same old modifications, and that causes them to lower their intensity in their workouts. So talk to the coach and see if you can try some new things and mix it up a little bit and go from there. So
yeah, definitely talk with us. And, like I said, what are your goals and, how can we help you get there? Weight loss or strength development or gymnastics development? Talk to us before, after class, and definitely before class, before the workout, so we can give you something to do during the workout. But maybe, like I said, it is modifying the workout on the fly. And we're throwing some toes to bar in there. We're making you do some extra cardio. And yeah, it may not be things that you're good at, but that's how you grow and develop, is by just continually attacking your weaknesses. Trying to lose weight, we're throwing you on machines, we're making you do a bunch of burpees. And yeah, that's going to do it. It's not going to be fun. But definitely talk with us before, and we'll definitely give you a good game plan to help you get those goals achieved.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, we can kind of jump into this topic for a few minutes. One of the biggest pieces, obviously, that we haven't discussed yet is the stuff you're doing outside of the gym and CrossFit pyramid. And the bottom of the pyramid, the big section to get great results, is nutrition. So obviously, you've had some serious changes in your nutrition, and I think that's contributed to your transformation before and after picture. And not only that, but your performance in your workouts. So do you want to touch base, just kind of like a 10,000 foot view of your nutrition?
Yeah. So the quick backstory is that, I've been coming in for a couple years, and I wanted to to up my performance in the gym. And we were actually at a pool party with one of my old partners, my old fitness partners. And, I was just kind of talking off the cuff. I'm like, yeah, I wish I could be better at CrossFit. Like, I just can't do these things and I don't have the volume. And she was like, well, what are you eating? Like, what do you put in your body for fuel? Like, we started talking about that. And it was like an eye opener. I had zero insight to nutrition and like how it impacted your body and how it impacts your performance and your health and all those things. I'd gone my whole life, 30 some years, not knowing what I was putting in my body to do workouts, to play soccer, to run. I had no idea. And so we started talking pretty serious about it. She gave me, a macro plan, my first macro plan to follow. And I was like, what is this? And how does this work? We kind of figured out a plan. And that was like 2019, 2020, somewhere around there. I don't remember the exact timeline. It was like 2020. And it was kind of an eye opener. If you want to get better, you can't just necessarily show up to the gym and, hope for the best. You have to put yourself in the best position possible to succeed. And that means outside of the gym, you've got to be looking at your nutrition. What am I eating? How much am I eating? Am I eating the right stuff, the right portions of things? If you're trying to lose weight, are you eating too much? If you're trying to gain weight, are you eating enough? And just from a high level, I had no idea what I was doing when I first started doing macros and stuff. But over the years, I've kind of made some very, very minor adjustments month by month, just tweaking some things here and there, a meal here or there. Like a good example, like I would potentially change a butter out if I was having my morning breakfast with toast and egg whites, and I would try a different butter to get more or less fat. Just small tweaks and seeing how they play. And over the years, I've been decently consistent. Am I 100% on all the time? My wife would say no. But, more often than not, the big meals of the day and the snacks, yeah, those are planned out. Whether I'm working out in the field for, my engineering job or I'm in an office, it's the same things I'm eating at the same times, the same volumes. Sundays are kind of a cheat day in my opinion. We have pasta on Sunday, but that's like a carb load thing. And so that does benefit me drastically on Monday for the strength. Yeah, maybe Friday I'll have some pizza. Sure, that does happen. But I would say like 80-20. For the most part,
80-20.
I tend to be following the plan, and I don't even have to like log it on the phone anymore. Everyone's got those apps where you can kind of log in and be like, oh, this is what I'm doing. Once you become so consistent, you can look at what you're doing and be like, yeah, that's it. Like, I don't need to plan it anymore. That's just the plan. Problem with that becomes when you go on like a vacation is a good example. Like, oh boy, how am I going to survive these vacations? You've become so consistent. Your body's become so regular to what you're putting in. And now it's like, you're either going to go off the deep end or you're going to do your best to adapt. There's a fine ground to that. But for the most part, outside of the gym, if you are trying to progress, yeah, you got to look at your nutrition 100%. Talking to a nutrition coach, if you don't know where to start, is a really good place. They'll probably put you on a path of let's just start by looking at what you regularly have. Log me what you regularly have, and then we'll kind of see where your base is. And then maybe we'll make some suggestions from there, help you come up with some plans. Another big one that's been, I don't know if it's on your list to talk about, the sleep and the hydration piece. Those are huge pieces that most people, you stay up way too late and you're getting up way too early, but you just did a really, really hard workout the other day. Maybe you did go ham when you're laying on the floor. You had one of those and you've gotten like 5 hours of sleep and your nutrition's off and you're not drinking enough water. Well, yeah, you're going to be dragging for a day or two trying to rebound from that. So sleep and hydration definitely aid in not only recovery, but performance as well. You're supposed to get your 8 hours. Try your best to get 8 hours as best you can, however that is. And the hydration, you can see I've got my water cup. I carry this thing with me everywhere. I try to drink it. It doesn't always work. Those are the big three outside of the gym that I try to hone in on. Definitely nutrition, and then getting the sleep at a reasonable time. Around 10 o'clock is when we start migrating back towards bed, and then definitely hydration, drinking a lot of water all day as much as you can. Kind of got to keep a bathroom nearby. That's the bad part of that, but yeah, those are the big three if you're trying to get improvements in the gym. You got to invest some time outside of the gym in those things.
Yeah, for sure. So really anyone that's trying to get any sort of results, I think, through health and fitness is to cover the big rocks first. We talked about consistency, intensity in your workout. So if you can get that rock, that's huge. And then obviously alongside of that, doing the stuff outside of the gym, which the big rock obviously is going to be nutrition. And to your point, if you have never tracked your calories, you've never tracked your macros, use a app, any of them, MyFitnessPal, there's a few others out there. Track a few days and just see where you're at. You'll be probably eye-opened of what that looks like. And then from there, like you mentioned, you could seek out a nutrition coach and they can give you some tweaks. You could do some research if you want to do it on your own. Obviously, if you get some help, it'll probably fast track you versus you trying to do it on your own. That's just another bottleneck of you not getting results is trying to do everything on your own. That's why you should come into the gym and get some advice from a coach. That's why you should seek out nutrition help if you're clueless in that area. That way you don't have to do it all on your own, and you'll see results a lot faster. And really, like, I heard this before, and it's so true. Like, everybody eats majority of the same meals, 8 to 10 meals, call it, throughout the week. So if you can just tune those meals and make them so they're aligning with your calories, or they're aligning with your macros as you start to track stuff, and you make those like adjustments, then to your point, after you get several weeks in and you're doing pretty well, you probably don't need to track anymore. I've tracked before, I don't track now. Same thing with you. And every once in a while, we do challenges every quarter, every bi-yearly or whatever. And those are good to do too, because it kind of gets you back to seeing where you're at again. Maybe you did make some changes without tracking, and now maybe you're plateauing again or whatever. So it's a good way to kind of dial things back in, do that for 4 to 6 weeks. And then from there, you can kind of not relax, but you've made the adjustments, and, you can kind of coast from there. So, and then to your point, sleep is so underrated. It's not talked about enough. That's the time your body's recovering. That's the time your hormones are resetting. Like, you're going to throw everything off if your sleep is off. And one of the things that's going to affect sleep too, which is a hot topic, is obviously drinking alcohol. So I used to drink all the time. I know you used to drink all the time, and I think it's not part of our lifestyles anymore. An occasional drink here and there is fine. But, part of the reason I don't drink is because it affects my sleep so much. And you really don't notice that until you stop drinking for a little while, and then you do have a drink or two or more, and then you can't sleep and you feel like crap the next day or whatever. It just completely throws everything off. That's a big piece too. And obviously there are empty calories as well. I'm not saying don't drink, but
definitely inhibits progress, right?
For sure. So just keeping that in mind when you're making that decision, and, limiting it as much as possible, for sure.
Like I said, with my why, tying it back to the beginning here of, when I had to take a hard look at myself, I was drinking a lot, and I didn't need a reason to not drink. I mean, the sun was setting, and I was like, okay, let's have a drink. I was always in the mood for a drink. And when you take a hard look at yourself and you start realizing that this is getting in the way, you got to make some changes. Yeah, you got to fess up and say, yeah, I'm doing that too much. Not that you can't do it ever. And I still do have drinks, don't get me wrong, but it's just not as often. It does tend to go against me making progress. The hangover the next day, just the way you feel, and it's just like, ugh, maybe I'm just getting old. and maybe it won't be like that forever. Like I tell my wife, I may not be like that forever, but for now, yeah, it certainly gets in the way, and it certainly inhibits progress. And I think a lot of folks that want to make those health choices, yeah, they got to take a look at how often you're drinking. I mean, even if it's just like twice a week, yeah, those are empty calories, and that's kind of fighting against the grind of what you're trying to accomplish in your health goals and your weight loss. And so I encourage people to take a look at an honest, hard look at that. Be truthful to yourself. Do you really need to do that? Can you do anything else during that time? Like for me, it was like when the sun's going down, I'd love to have a drink. That's like my time. Like for smokers, I was a smoker too back in the day. Whenever you're driving in a car or whatever, you got that kick of, I got to do it. Can you find something else to do when that kicks in? Whatever it is. Maybe it's go for a walk, or take the dog out, or whatever. I mean, anything to kind of kick that habit, that routine, that ritual that you're used to not have a drink or not have a smoke, whatever. You got to take a hard look at yourself and be honest and see if you can find anything else to do, a healthier habit to not have a drink.
For sure. And to kind of jump on to talk about that and extend that a little bit more, one of the things you can do when you're on this journey is, no matter where you're at, whatever stage you're at, is to do a full audit of yourself and like what habits are good and what habits are bad and what habits are neutral, and start addressing those bad habits and see if you can get rid of them or replace them with something else.
Yeah, but like one goal at a time, right? One habit at a time. If you try to attack everything at one time, it's like, whoa, that's overwhelming, and that you'll burn out. Yeah, just start with one small thing at a time.
For sure. And we were talking about the big rocks. Like, obviously, those are the ones you want to attack first. And then you could start adding the little nuances that are going to do, one thing that you and I both do is cold plunging. And I'm not saying if, your goal is to have better recovery and this and that, that's the first thing you should do. It's not. You need to take a look at your nutrition. You need to take a look at your hydration. You need to take a look at your sleep. You need to take a look at the intensity of your workouts, whatever it might be. Those are some things to address first. You don't want to skip all that and just think, oh, if I get a cold plunge, I'm going to feel better, because that's a small thing. It's kind of icing on the cake kind of thing. So
I was just telling one of our members yesterday about the cold plunge experience. I think I was doing it on a pretty regular basis, and maybe this is a topic for another show, but I don't want to cheat that process of I've just done some heavy strength, some heavy workouts, and I'm just going to go jump in the cold tub and, get that instant fix. I want my body to feel that, work on repairing and building that muscle tissue up, and not like put the fire out right away. I feel like sometimes that cheats the process for me. So the cold plunging is an aspect. It can be used. It can help your health goals. For me in particular, if I use it too much, much. I've told this to you, it thins me right out, which is some people really want that. As a smaller athlete, I want to be bigger and stronger. That's one of my goals. So I try not to use it except on like the rest days, traditional rest days. So it can help most folks. It's sure very hard to do. I mean, the average person isn't just going to run and jump and do it, but there are some extremely healthy benefits to it if you can give it a go, for sure. You will definitely improve your health metrics across the board if you use it on a regular basis, for sure.
Absolutely. And definitely the mental side too. I mean, it's an extremely hard thing to do. Just like when you're in the middle of an extremely hard workout and you're trying to push yourself into that danger zone or dark place, whatever you want to call it. It's a similar experience in a way. Those couple of minutes, however long you're doing it for, it's a mental game just trying to stay in there. So that's definitely a benefit from that perspective as well. We don't have to dive into that too much. Anyways, I think that'll do it for this episode. Ken, we could definitely do a part 2, part 3, whatever we need to do.
Sure.
I'm sure we could talk
Love
for
to do
hours.
it.
So, but anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And again, thanks Ken for joining. And like
Thanks
I
for
said,
having
we'll
me.
do it again. Anyways, we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Peace.